It's off to school and work, waiting for some fun while my boss acts like a jerk. Pro show afternoons, midnight sketch can't come too soon. Afternoon and sketch can't come too soon. But at night I'm filled with dread. I know just what I'll do instead. Come on and follow me. It's time, you see, for Lorn and Apollo. Time to laugh and learn. Come feel the burn of what the fandom was. What random fun doesn't escape. Isn't it great? Late night with Lorn and Apollo.
Master Yoda, what must I do to become the most powerful Jedi?
That spot already taken is by 2 other Jedi.
2?
Always 2 there are. Obi-Dog and Base Windu.
I don't give a fuck about no prophecy, man. Deflecting bullshit all day is my plan. My aura is purple, your aura is broke. The dark side is for lame motherfuckers, bro, you a joke. I'm slapping the bass, you're slapping younglings, man. This whole Clone War is a motherfucking scam. I got the high ground, I'm on the beat. Obi-Wan, watch my back, keep the Sith off the streets. I got the high ground, I'm on the beat. Baddest motherfucker that you'll ever meet. I got the high ground, I'm on the beat. 2 Jedi dogs, we are the hustle elite. I got the high ground, I'm on the beat. I have had it with your whining, just take a seat.
Don't bring that Jar Jar energy around me, bro. No droids in the studio, I told y'all to go. Keep your funkin' midichlorian count to yourself. Get credits on the low, just keep to yourself. Good relations with your girl I have,
That's so true.
you gon' make me slap the Sith right out of you. You're not the chosen one, go check yourself. May the force be with somebody else.
I got the high ground, I'm on the beat. Obi-Wan, watch my back, keep the Sith off the streets. I got the high ground, I'm on the beat. Baddest motherfucker that you'll ever meet. I got the high ground, I'm on the beat. 2 Jedi dogs, we are the hustle elite. I got the high ground, I'm on the beat. I have had it with your bullshit, just take a seat.
Good evening, everybody. Getting here with a little help from AI Jedi. Hope you guys like that one. That is his latest one that has been out there. Want to definitely give him credit for all of that stuff. I think he does amazing work. I know it's not to all of your guys' taste, but I thought some of you might be getting a little tired of these clones ain't loyal, so thought we'd bring that one out there for tonight. Before we get started, I wanted to give a little programming note. If you guys out there are the prayerful types, we have a number of people down and wounded. We've got Marvin down with the plague that he's been fighting for about the last week. We have Kevin continuing to fight health issues, and my son is also having some complications after surgery, for which he's going to be going into the doctor on Tuesday to hopefully kind of figure out what's going on there and get him whatever helps he needs. So if you guys wouldn't mind keeping all of those people in your thoughts for support, we'd certainly appreciate it. Also, Trish tonight is not generally well familiar with the X-Men movies, so she declined to be on the panel tonight, but we do have our regular co-hosts here, Mr. Martin Stone and Dustin from Stay on Target. Fellas,
Howdy.
how are you doing?
Good. Glad to be back. Talking X-Men, baby.
Yep. This was a suggestion made by Dustin. We're going to be talking about the X-Men cast for the cinematic X-Men movies, both past, present, and future, and comparing and contrasting the original cast performance against each other and kind of speculating or forecasting how we think the new cast are going to do and how they fit those roles. So hopefully that'll be an interesting discussion. We'll see how it goes. Martin, what have you been up to for the last week?
Just trying to take care of sick kids. Back to school, and they are getting whatever crud is floating around.
Let's include them in those well wishes then as well. You're also down with the plague, so sorry to hear that. I hope they get better soon. And Dustin,
Thanks.
what have you been up to?
Oh, man, not much. Enjoyed the show on Tuesday with you doing the deep dive into Thrawn, and had a great show Wednesday night, and had a new guest on for members only. We'll be releasing a video soon, another interview video about that. That'll be a fun time. Otherwise, I will be praying for everybody. Thankfully, I do not know anybody other than who you mentioned tonight that is sick, so I will be praying for everybody.
That's good.
Glad to
because
hear that.
It feels like it's taking everybody down lately. And the other thing that's going to happen is that I don't know about you guys. I guess with you, Martin, I know you've already got schools going. Mine's going to be starting next week. You're also going to have kids cycling in and out and sending secondary waves of the plague throughout all these various households. So everybody gear up for that. Hope you're taking a lot of vitamin C and sterilizing every possible surface that you're going to be touching. So good luck, everybody. It's going to be an interesting start to the fall. Our first story for tonight is Puck investigates Warner Brothers' takedowns of Lantern spoilers, and I think this is a really interesting one. Warner Brothers Discovery's controversial attempt to suppress discussion of Lantern spoilers is receiving new scrutiny from one of Hollywood's industry publications. Following the HBO superhero show's premiere, the studio may have hoped that the conversation would shift towards how it fits into James Gunn's larger DCU. Instead, the debut confirmed that early reporting at the center of the controversy, likely reminding fans who follow entertainment news of the attempted takedowns. Puck legal columnist Eric Gardner has investigated the copyright complaints filed against Cosmic Book News after the outlet discussed an alleged spoiler for the HBO series. His conclusion, that Warner Brothers is playing with fire, adds considerable weight to concerns that the studio may have used copyright enforcement to silence reporting rather than remove stolen material. The controversy began before Lanterns premiered when Cosmic Book News reported a major development involving Hal Jordan. Warner Brothers subsequently submitted takedown notices affecting the outlet's accounts on X, YouTube, and Facebook. As was previously reported, the targeted 67-second video reportedly featured editor Matt McGloin speaking directly to the camera. It did not contain leaked footage for the series. The only studio-owned material visible was apparently an officially released promotional image included within a screenshot. Puck's involvement matters because Gardner did not merely repeat Cosmic Book News' allegations. According to McGloin's account of the investigation, Gardner obtained and reviewed the notices himself before examining their potential legal implications. One complaint reportedly identified the infringing material as people discussing the spoilers. Another listed the disputed material as text and described it simply as a Lantern Season 1, Episode 1 spoiler. That distinction is crucial. Copyright protects a creator's expression, including footage, dialogue, images, and potentially unusually detailed retellings. It does not ordinarily grant a studio ownership over the basic fact that something occurs in a story. Gardner also connected the dispute to an ongoing lawsuit involving YouTuber Andrew Sosa. Sosa alleges that Warner Brothers improperly used a copyright complaint to remove his negative review of The Batman, even though the video apparently contained no footage from the movie. In May, a federal judge allowed Sosa's misrepresentation claim to proceed. The court found that the speed of the takedown, its subsequent withdrawal, and the apparent absence of copyrighted footage could plausibly support an inference of bad faith. That ruling arrived only weeks before Warner Brothers pursued the Lantern's notices. Until now, Warner Brothers could dismiss the controversy as complaints from smaller outlets unhappy with routine copyright enforcement. Puck's coverage makes that response more difficult. Gardner is a veteran legal journalist and former legal editor at The Hollywood Reporter. His analysis provides an independent voice with extensive experience covering copyright disputes and the entertainment industry's legal machinery. It also moves the story beyond arguments among fans over spoilers. The central issue is now whether a major corporation exploited the Digital Millennium Copyright Act's takedown process to temporarily silence lawful reporting during a critical promotional window. Cosmic Book News filed counter notices, but Warner Brothers reportedly declined to pursue the matter in court. YouTube and X eventually restored the affected material, although the interruption had already limited the outlet's reach around San Diego Comic-Con and the Lantern's premiere. A copyright complaint alone would not have proven that the original Lantern's report was accurate. The series itself has now done that. However, Puck's investigation suggests that the takedowns deserve scrutiny independent of the spoiler. Warner Brothers may have hoped to control what audiences learned about Lanterns. Instead, its response has transformed one outlet's reporting into a much larger debate about corporate overreach, copyright enforcement, and freedom of the press. For now, journalists and content creators will be watching to see what happens next between the studio and the affected outlets, perhaps even more closely than audiences are watching the show itself. So, from what I understand, the show actually got some pretty significant viewership. I read that it was something like 9.3 million views on the show, so it at least garnered interest for that first episode. But what they're talking about, or at least I think talking around the lines a little bit in this article about, is that, and I may remember some of the details slightly incorrectly, so if I do so, please forgive me, but when a copyright claim is made and YouTube takes a video down, you can file that dispute, as Cosmic Book News did here, and the side that filed the claim has 30 days to respond. And if they decline to do so, your video will be restored. So the way that they did this was they exploited the reporting mechanism because it was within 30 days of the release to make sure that the material would be taken down and the audience couldn't hear it, even though they knew and understood that no actual copyrighted material was used. They just wanted that 30-day window during which it couldn't be seen so that the series could premiere. So that's where the argument about them not operating in good faith comes from. From there, I leave it to you guys. What do you think about all this?
Seems like a dirty move, in my opinion. I mean, I guess it might be within YouTube's right, but the thing about YouTube is everything's so timely, or any way you put it out there, that if they have the ability to keep it quiet until all that news is passed, then yeah, you're not going to get anything seen on that. You're not going to make any money off of it too if you're getting AdSense or whatever. So it seems like a dirty move that they're able to do that. It would be nice if there was actually another appeal or a rush appeal or something else that the person that is filing that complaint about or whatever, just to get it back up there sooner rather than later. Otherwise, it just feels wrong, in my opinion.
Well, this is also pretty close to home because this ties to everything that we do. You know, we're reporting on issues as well, and we have to rely on reports that other people make, and so this is stifling journalism. Martin, your take?
I have a couple of different takes on this. One is that I think the DCMA or DMCA, the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, was poorly written by people who didn't understand intellectual property law, let alone technology. It needs to be scrapped and redone from the ground up. It's been a travesty that has allowed the players who already had position to fortify their positions and created a throttle on the free internet. Not to put too fine a point on it.
This also goes hand in hand with the 1996 Telecommunications Act, when they were making determinations as to whether or not, for instance, internet service providers were platforms or publishers.
Yeah.
And those also have some things that play into whether or not something can be taken down and who can be sued if some corporate owner of something gets upset. So,
and one thing I'd like to see is that if you file a copyright claim and lose, you should be
Pay some kind of
required to
damages?
pay. Yeah, not just damages. You should be required to pay the we could decide
Legal.
formulas and algorithms and things like that. You should pay the amount that it looked like that was going to generate in revenue to the streamer. You should pay legal fees to fight it, and then there should be a punitive cost as well for people who have been frequent flyers on filing copyright.
This is one of the stories that I think is important to highlight because unfortunately, Congress is so far behind in dealing with updating copyright law, especially in the digital age. We're essentially a century behind where we should be with understanding how publication works and how material re-enters the public domain. It is incredibly in favor of copyright holders being able to extend almost into perpetuity, which was not the intent of copyright.
Right. And
But
longtime viewers will know that my proposal is 20 years copyright.
yeah, I think originally it was 30, if I remember right. But
Well, the absolute original that the American Congress put into place is 15.
okay.
And that was extended, and that's 18th century.
Well, in any case, part of the problem is that we have people in Congress who generally do not understand technology.
Mhm.
And a lot of that is simply due to the age of many of the serving members, but trying to get caught up and apply rules in such a way that are fair is incredibly difficult. That's not something that is easy to do. But the point of copyright was to intended to allow a creator to enrich themselves up to a certain point, but then material would enter the public domain, and the idea was that that also incentivizes the creator to continue to create
Mhm.
so that our society doesn't stagnate, which if you've seen anything happening with movies in the last 20 to 30 years, you should recognize as a problem.
Yeah, and there's a recognition in this as well that all of our stories are based on our previous stories. There is nothing new. It's recombinations, and I'm not just talking about in the Hero of a Thousand Faces, Joseph Campbell sort of way. I mean that we learned from each other. That's a part of why the AI discussion to me is so peculiar. People complaining that AI reads all these books. I read a lot of books. I mean, I know AI can do it at scale greater than I can, but we are teaching AI the way we teach people.
Yes, and attempting to replicate the way that we think the brain works, which also leads to some interesting side effects. Are there any other thoughts before we move on to our next topic?
I was just saying with the whole public platform situation, it's another territory even that touches upon freedom of speech as well,
Mhm.
because technically the since they haven't got it all nailed down, the corporations are acting more like publishers instead of a town square, because technically there's a lot of crisscross going on there,
Mhm.
and that's something I have a problem with, that people aren't able to say, and YouTube gets all the benefits of being a public square without the consequences of being a publisher and being fair across the board. And
So
I
do
know
you
that,
feel like once they start you making editorial exclusions, they become a publisher instead of a platform?
yeah, that's been my point the whole time. So if you're going to do that, you better do it fairly across the board. Otherwise, you have to let things go. You have to be a public platform if you're going
Mhm.
to claim that you are.
Now, there is another complicating thing, and I don't think this is the right name of the case, but I think I can give enough that people can find it. Harper and Row versus Nation Enterprises. Uh, that was mid 1980s, and Gerald Ford had written his autobiography. He, yeah, the publishers paid him. They licensed, I want to say, Time Magazine to print excerpts from that. But the Nation, the magazine, got an advanced copy somehow, like a leaked copy, and they printed the section about pardoning Richard Nixon. Now, this is an autobiography for a man who lived a fascinating life. He was a high school football player. He was a senator. He became president. He sat on the committee that exonerated the CIA in the Kennedy killing. So it fascinating life, and all the Nation printed was the section on pardoning Nixon. Harper and Row sued, and if I'm remembering this correctly, 1985, the Supreme Court found that they violated the heart of the material, and that's why it was a violation of their copyright, because the nation was claiming, forever we've been able to take excerpts from things, that's fair use. But because it was the heart of the material, the Supreme Court found it violated the copyright, which basically means nobody cared about Gerald Ford's autobiography except for the couple of lines where he talked about pardoning Richard Nixon, which had to make Ford feel really great. But that's the current case, if I remember correctly, that is the controlling case here. If it violates the heart of the material. So if the leaks were so central to the plot, that might be what Warner Brothers is getting at. Now, I think
that actually does make sense, because when you are releasing a book, it is for financial gain. And if you have taken out the thing that would allow you to profit from your copyrighted work, as you said, if that's the main reason people are buying the book, then it makes sense that you have materially harmed the owner. Right. And that makes sense. Now, in the case of the spoilers, which we're not going to mention here, although you probably already heard them, it's probably not the main thing about the series. One would hope not, anyway, because otherwise, boy, how are the rest of the episodes going to do? But it is an inciting event that leads to the main plot arc of the series. So I guess it depends on how you split that hair.
It's basically. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say time will tell.
It's basically like whenever you're telling a joke and somebody tells the punchline before you get there.
Yep. All right, we do have some super chats that have stacked up, so I'm going to get to those real quick. We have one from Mark Fields for $19.99 saying, "Do you know what you need to seriously change about the show? Nothing at all. I love the deep conversations and the banter. Keep it up, all of you, and of course, I wish you all positive vibes. Have a wonderful night." Thank you, Mark. Always love having you here. Thank you for the wonderful super chat and the positive vibes. We'll take them as always. We have Juliet out there for £2 saying, "Morning late night live with Lorn, Apollo in chat." And good evening to you, Juliet. Hope you're doing well over there. We have Mark Fields back for another $1.99 saying, "Prayers for all." And we appreciate those as well. Juliet with a reminder for £2 to like, subscribe, and share, which we would also greatly appreciate. We have from Chief William Schweikert for $2 saying, "Please Google Carol Kane, Strange New Worlds puppet pick and thoughts." And your wish is my command. Here we go. I'll let you guys speak on this because I don't know anything about this.
I haven't been watching Strange New Worlds. In fact, I haven't watched much of the Star Trek series that have been out. I tried watching Strange New Worlds, got about 3 episodes into it, and thought it just wasn't for me.
I mean, I got to admit, it does kind of look like Carol Kane.
Yeah, I'm a Star Wars fan. I haven't really followed Star Trek for a while, so I have no idea what's going on there. But then looks like some good spaghetti.
See, I am a fan of Star Trek. I've seen all the movies and TV shows up to the new stuff.
Well, that just means that you're a fan of Star Trek. So,
right.
I think you said it perfectly. Yeah. Sorry, Chief, if that doesn't satisfy what you were looking for, but I think it looks okay. I don't know why they're doing it, but I think it looks okay. And next up, we've got Mark Fields for $1.99 asking, "Dustin, first concert you went to?"
Oh, man. I'm not sure if this is the first concert I went to, but coming from a primarily Christian home, the first one I remember is a band called DC Talk. We saw them back in, I think it was I forget what the year, 1996. And that had a lasting impression on my life. It was a really cool concert experience to go to. Big Christian band at the time. So
were they the ones that did Jesus Freak?
Yeah, they're the ones that did Jesus Freak. Yeah. That was awesome live, especially for like a 6-year-old. I was like, whoa. But yeah, that was it. That's it for me. What about you guys?
My first was the Charlie Daniels Band.
ZZ Top, Leonard Skinner.
Wow. Nice.
All right. Next up, we've got Halo co-creator Marcus Leto appears to be campaigning for a return to save the franchise. One of the original architects of Halo increasingly appears to be publicly campaigning for an opportunity to return to the franchise, and Marcus Leto is no longer merely criticizing what Halo Studios has done wrong. He's now telling everyone what he would do if Microsoft handed Halo back to him. Leto, the original art director of Halo Combat Evolved and a co-creator of the Halo universe, has spent the weeks following the release of Halo Campaign Evolved offering unusually candid assessments of the remake. He has praised the areas where he believes Halo Studios succeeded, criticized decisions he believes misunderstand the original games, and recently declared that he would love to come back to the franchise. And he said here in this tweet, "If I were to make another Halo for these days, I bet many of you would not like it. It'd be a lot darker with a more grounded military feel. PvP would be the brains, PvE the heart and soul. It would not be everyone's Halo." And that's quoted down here below in the article. I guess I didn't need to stop there, but if you wanted to see the photo of the tweet, there it was. That doesn't sound much like an original developer casually reminiscing about his old job. It sounds an awful lot like a pitch. Leto is hardly a peripheral figure in the history of Halo. He joined Bungie in the early 90s and became art director on Halo Combat Evolved. Kent State University, his alma mater, describes him as both a co-creator of the Halo universe and the father of Master Chief, noting his role in creating the character who would become the face of Xbox. He later served as art director on the Bungie-developed Halo sequels and creative director on Halo Reach. That makes his proposed direction for the franchise particularly significant. Leto continued, "I'd probably bench much of the current lore. Respect it, but build a new future narrative for both the old and new audiences, which makes much more sense." That's an extraordinary statement from one of the people responsible for creating the universe in the first place. Rather than attempting to reconcile every edition, retcon, novel, game, and storyline accumulated over decades of Halo, Leto appears willing to draw a line under much of it and move the franchise forward with a cleaner narrative. He's not suggesting that everything created after Bungie should simply be erased. He specifically says he would respect the existing lore, but bench much of the current lore is about as clear an acknowledgement as one could ask for that Leto believes Halo has become burdened by what it has accumulated. And perhaps most importantly, he's not proposing another attempt to create a version of Halo designed to appeal to absolutely everyone. It would not be everyone's Halo. That may be exactly the philosophy the franchise desperately needs. Leto has spent much of August analyzing Halo Campaign Evolved, and his comments have frequently focused on the creative philosophy behind the original game. His assessment hasn't been universally negative. While playing the remake, Leto praised its movement, cinematics, visuals, and lighting, saying that despite having some complaints, those issues initially took a backseat to the fun he was having. And that's when he says, been slowly playing through Campaign Evolved on Heroic, the difficulty we designed the game for 25 years ago. Overall, I really love the upgrades, movement, cinematics, visuals. Damn, the lighting's brilliant. Do I have gripes? A few, but they're taking a backseat to the fun, which seems pretty positive. That makes his criticisms considerably harder to dismiss as bitterness from a former Bungie developer unwilling to accept anyone else's interpretation of his work. When Leto believes Halo Studios got something right, he says so. When he believes it got something wrong, however, he has not been shy about that either. While Forerunner tech was metal, not stone, it was also ancient, vast, alive, and attuned to the horrors that lurked within. It had seen hundreds of millennia of conflict, yet the game shows it as shiny metal that looks like it was built a few years ago. So there's the contrast between the two different interpretations of the game. Leto blasted the remake's treatment of the Halo installation and Forerunner architecture, arguing that the original technology was intended to feel ancient, enormous, mysterious, and almost tomb-like. Instead, he complained that the remake made the ring look like a shiny new toy, ultimately describing the main menu version as out of scale, no mystery, and damn ugly. That criticism is more important than simply whether someone prefers one version of a fictional structure over another. Leto was explaining why Bungie's Halo looked the way it did. There was an artistic philosophy behind that world. The Forerunners were not supposed to feel like someone had finished constructing their buildings last Tuesday. Their structures conveyed enormous age, mystery, danger, and history before the player necessarily understood any of it. Leto believes some of that has been lost. Then there's multiplayer. Halo Campaign Evolved launched without traditional PvP multiplayer, despite competitive multiplayer being inseparable from the legacy of the original Halo. Leto called that decision a misstep and attributed it to lack of oversight and poor planning. His newest comments make it abundantly clear how differently Leto views the importance of multiplayer. PvP would be the brains, PvE the heart and soul. That is not treating multiplayer as some optional secondary feature to be considered after the campaign is finished. It's one half of the foundation. For millions of players, that was Halo. The campaign created the world, characters, music, enemies, vehicles, and experiences they loved, while multiplayer kept them playing with their friends for years. Leto appears to understand that relationship intimately because he helped build it. All of this becomes even more fascinating when combined with another recent exchange. After a fan suggested that Leto should return to Halo, his response could hardly have been clearer. "I would love to come back." That response was reported on August 17th amid increasing fan discussion about bringing veteran Bungie developers back into the franchise. Now, days later, Leto is openly describing the game he would make if given the opportunity. Darker, more grounded, more military, a major emphasis on both competitive multiplayer and campaign, much of the existing lore moved to the sidelines in favor of a cleaner narrative future, and absolutely no obsession with making a Halo designed to satisfy everybody. Leto even acknowledged that his ideas would undoubtedly anger some fans. For those of you really concerned about this, I get it. We need to sit together, break bread, and enjoy some deep conversation, along with some fine beverages, of course. This is beginning to resemble a public job interview. Microsoft doesn't necessarily need to hand Marcus Leto total control over Halo tomorrow morning, but at this point one question becomes increasingly difficult to avoid. Why isn't Microsoft talking to him? When one of the people who helped create your most iconic gaming franchise is publicly saying he wants to come back while simultaneously demonstrating that he still has a very clear idea of what the franchise should be, picking up the phone would seem like the bare minimum. Because whether Microsoft realizes it or not, Marcus Leto increasingly appears to be campaigning for the job. So this is kind of interesting. I saw some back and forth. I don't know if this was Marcus that was talking about it or not. I think it probably was because it's in this same kind of a vein of conversation. But one of the former developers was talking about how he doesn't think that bringing the old team back together would even work today because they're all different people than they were when they originally made the game. And they were all hungry, they were younger, they had passion. They also clashed a lot. He said that there were a lot of people that didn't actually like each other, but they were all working towards the same goal. And that's the way a lot of teams work, whether you're on something like a football field or whether you're in a corporate office. A lot of that happens when you're working together. But then years pass, people will go on and do different things. They do change. I think he's probably right. I don't think you could probably capture the entire original team, but there's something to be said for bringing some of the original guys in and at least consulting. What do you guys think?
Yeah, it reminds me of Star Wars. It's like, in a weird way, that he has a more clear vision, and I have to agree with him. A lot of his takes on Halo. Being a Halo fan, I haven't liked what they've done, and with the franchise after Bungie, it kind of left Bungie Studios, and I didn't realize he was such a major player in it. But I actually really like his takes. I like the grittier, darker side. I mean, that's kind of what made Halo Halo. So it sounds like he's just got a more focused opinion on what the brand should stick to and what it's always done and done well, because it has gotten a little more muddied, confused, at least in the games. And I mean, the show itself, I don't know if we even want to talk about that, but I can see where he's coming from, where he say he doesn't want to make a show for everyone, because if you try to please everyone, you're going to please no one.
Martin, you have any more specific thoughts on it?
Yeah, I agree with you that they can't go back and redo it again. They're older now. They've had different life experiences. They're not going to have 20-hour sprint sessions that are fueled by Surge and Slim Jims. So it would be different. But it has to be different. It's a different era of consoles, different environment. I like that he was saying it's not for everybody, because not everything has to be for everybody. You need a core group of people to be fanatical about it to spread the message. But yeah, I think people like him should be brought in to consult. You have to honor the past, and he's even saying much of the same. He wouldn't jettison the new lore. I think that's part of the challenge of taking over that sort of thing. You need to say, okay, this happened. How do we deal with that?
So this is a different question. Do you think they'll reach out to him now? Or would it be too embarrassing to do so?
Since it's so public, it's hard, but they're also they're in a bad place. I don't know if they know how desperate they are. I don't know if we really know, because there's asymmetrical information. They know what their position is internally. We can only speculate from the filings they make. And when people's bonuses are on the line, they do crazy things, and sometimes they pay off.
Okay.
I think they should at least give him a phone call just to get his ideas. Like you said, even just consult. And if they could keep it even hush hush, he signed some sort of NDA, but is still involved at some level to help. I mean, I wouldn't see why not, depending on what they have going on. But I know it's a very public world, so I don't even know if they could make that happen.
Well,
Something Dustin just said reminded me, since this guy's an art director, and he was saying the new people misunderstood, or maybe they had an entirely different vision about what it's supposed to look like. It sort of reminds me of a Disney short that was done. It was called Destino. That the original work was done by Salvador Dali and an animator. And it wasn't until the 90s that it was dusted off and finished. And the animators who were working on it, Dali had passed away by then. It was the 2000s when it was dusted off and finished. But they tracked down the animator and asked him about, what's they has these people on with bicycles and they have shoes on their head, and he's like, no, those aren't shoes, those are baguettes. It's bread on their heads. From the sketches, people completely misunderstood what they were going for. And in the same way, you have this art director saying, hey, you guys didn't get it. That's the sort of thing you need to reach out about,
So I'm going to give him some free advice. You get nothing but goodwill by paying him as a consultant. It doesn't mean you have to take his suggestions and implement them. And in fact, much as I hate to say this, what a lot of corporations do now is they invite the old school guys in to be a consultant and then slap an NDA on them so they can't talk about anything. Mm-hmm. But that's another potential bonus if you're worried about underscoring how people are reacting to the new release. So I don't think that you can go wrong by at least reaching out to him. And even if you don't bring him under contract, it allows him to say, hey, they did reach out and we had a discussion, which also works in your favor. Turn what is potentially negative PR into positive PR. That's something that I think a lot of corporations have forgotten how to do. They've gotten too contentious and argumentative with people who are commenting on their products. It's like, spin it into a positive, because you need to have a good relationship with the people who are invested in your products, especially when they have a personal tie to it.
Yeah, it sounds like just somebody who really cares about it, and so much is determined nowadays of what succeeds and what doesn't by people online that are passionate about it. So if you can win those people over, you're probably going to succeed.
Yep. We've got another super chat from Chief William Schweikert for 5 saying, in a most recent episode, the Enterprise crew, except for Spock, why except for Spock, are turned into Muppets. Remember Sid and Marty Krofft? Her puppet made me think of that, and yes, I do, although I remember them from Land of the Lost, which is something that we talked about not too terribly long ago.
Didn't they do Sigmund and the Sea Monsters?
What's that?
Didn't they do Sigmund and the Sea Monsters, too?
I'm not sure. I know that they were mentioning in the chat earlier that they did H.R. Puffin stuff, so...
That was what I was thinking of. But
there's all kinds of weird stuff that they got into, and that does sort of sound weirdly like their design aesthetic, so... I don't know. I have not watched Strange New Worlds like Martin. I have not really watched any modern Star Trek. I think the last modern Star Trek that I watched was the J.J. Abrams movies, and after that I haven't really watched anything. So I hope it was good. You'd have to tell us. Jim Cummings breaks silence after Disney Legend snub. Jim Cummings is no longer merely sharing other people's frustration over Disney repeatedly refusing to name him a Disney legend. Now he's making his own feelings known. Following the 2026 Disney Legend ceremony at D23, the Ultimate Disney Fan event, the legendary voice actor posted a pointed video to his personal Instagram account addressing his continued absence from the company's highest honor. Cummings wrote, 40-plus years, 1,500-plus characters, the voice of generations? No comment. And just in case anyone somehow missed the message, Cummings accompanied the video with Simon and Garfunkel's The Sound of Silence as he walked past a series of signs hyping the Disney Legends ceremony. No comment indeed. It's difficult to imagine a more succinct way for Cummings to communicate exactly how ridiculous he finds the situation without directly unloading on the company that has employed him for nearly 4 decades. And at this point, Disney deserves every bit of the scrutiny. That Park Place previously reported that Cummings had begun resharing social media posts from fans criticizing Disney for leaving him out of the Disney Legends program. One post he amplified specifically questioned how Bob Iger, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, the Jonas Brothers, and Lin-Manuel Miranda could all receive the honor before Cummings. Another described his omission as an absolute travesty. At the time, we were careful to note that Cummings himself had not explicitly criticized Disney. He was sharing what other people were saying, and while the implication appeared obvious, they were nevertheless somebody else's words. That distinction no longer really exists. Cummings has now put his name directly on the complaint. The Instagram post doesn't mention Bob Iger. It doesn't mention The Rock. It doesn't explicitly demand that Disney make Cummings a legend. It doesn't have to. 40-plus years, 1,500-plus characters, the voice of generations. The point is obvious. What makes Cummings' post even more damning is where the accompanying video was filmed. D23 itself. Disney didn't treat Cummings as some distant former employee whose connection to the company belongs to another era. Quite the opposite. Cummings was featured throughout D23 2026, appearing during 3 different events celebrating Disney's history and entertainment legacy. He participated in Making Disney Magic with Ron Clements, and was also featured during 2 Disney Rewind concert events, highlighting Disney entertainment from the 1980s and 1990s. He appeared alongside Disney talent including Bill Farmer, Jodie Benson, and newly minted 2026 Disney legend Susan Egan. So once again, consider how bizarre this situation actually is. Disney is happy to bring Jim Cummings to its biggest fan convention. Disney is happy to put him on stage to celebrate its animation history. Disney is happy to use his presence to invoke nostalgia for an era when millions of children grew up watching Disney television. Disney is happy for him to sing songs and discuss characters that helped define the company's entertainment legacy. But Disney apparently still doesn't think he belongs among its legends. You almost couldn't construct a better argument for Cummings than Disney did by putting him on those stages. Cummings' description of himself as the voice of generations might sound boastful coming from almost anyone else. In his case, it's simply accurate. His career spans more than 4 decades and more than 1,500 characters overall, encompassing nearly 200 films, 134 television series totaling more than 2,500 episodes, 175 video games, and dozens of animated shorts. For Disney alone, Cummings has voiced Winnie the Pooh, Tigger, Darkwing Duck, Pete, Tailspin's Don Carnage, Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers' Fat Cat, Bonker's title character, Ray and the Princess and the Frog, Ed and the Lion King, and Star Wars Hondo Ohnaka, among many others. Winnie the Pooh alone should probably end the discussion. Cummings has been the primary voice of Pooh since the late 1980s. Children who grew up hearing his Winnie the Pooh now have children, and in some cases grandchildren, hearing the same voice. That's a Disney legacy. Not a celebrity partnership, a recent hit movie, or an executive acquisition strategy. A Disney legacy. Disney describes the Legends Award as the company's highest honor, and says it recognizes people whose creativity has shaped Disney and whose impact can be felt throughout the company. Disney CEO Josh D'Amaro described the honorees as figures whose creativity helped shape Disney into what it is today, and whose impact is felt in everything we do. How does Jim Cummings not meet that standard? The 2026 class included Bob Iger, Dwayne Johnson, the Jonas Brothers, Lin-Manuel Miranda, Anne Hathaway, Susan Egan, and fellow voice actor Alan Tudyk, among others.
What?
Yep. As we noted in our previous report, that isn't the chicken. Well, and Kate
I know he's done so
Yeah.
much. I actually love him. His Ed Wynn impression for King Candy is amazing.
Yep, he is very talented, but when stacked against what Jim Cummings has done, we're going to get into the commentary part early.
Yeah.
But no, I have some mixed feelings about this story, but we'll get to it. That isn't necessarily an argument that those people don't deserve recognition, except maybe for Bob Iger. I totally agree with Marvin's point here. It's an argument that Disney's continued failure to recognize Cummings becomes increasingly impossible to justify when you look at the people who have already gotten in. Alan Tudyk's induction is particularly revealing because it eliminates any suggestion that Disney simply doesn't want to induct an active voice actor who continues performing characters for the company. Disney clearly will, just not Jim Cummings. And this brings us back to the question Disney has steadfastly refused to answer. Why? Why has one of the most prolific voice actors in the company's history not been given its highest honor? There is no publicly disclosed scoring system for becoming a Disney legend. There is no apparent minimum tenure. There is no rule requiring someone to retire first. Disney chooses the recipients internally. That lack of transparency naturally encourages speculation. As that Park Place previously documented, Cummings has drawn criticism from some Disney fans over social media activity that has caused people to perceive him as politically conservative. There remains no evidence that Cummings' politics have anything to do with Disney denying him legend status. But when an obvious candidate is repeatedly passed over with no public explanation, people are going to ask why. Is there some private disagreement between Disney and Cummings? Does somebody involved with the selection process simply dislike it? Is Disney waiting for some future anniversary? Could politics have anything to do with it? Or has Disney's committee somehow convinced itself that nearly 40 years as Winnie the Pooh, combined with Darkwing Duck, Tigger, Pete, Hondo Ohnaka, Ray, and a seemingly endless collection of other Disney characters isn't enough? Disney could eliminate much of that speculation by simply explaining the omission. So far, it hasn't. There's a certain irony in all of this. Just weeks before Disney once again passed him over, Cummings received Comic-Con International's Inkpot Award, honoring his contributions to animation, film, television, and fandom. Cummings said he was truly humbled and blessed by the recognition. Comic-Con apparently had no trouble recognizing what Disney cannot. Jim Cummings' new Instagram post also feels like a significant change in tone. Sharing someone else's criticism provides plausible distance, but posting a video from D23 listing your 4 decades of work in more than 1,500 characters, calling yourself the voice of generations, and then ending with no comment while the sound of silence plays in the background? That's a statement. A pretty effective one, too. Disney can continue refusing to put Jim Cummings onto the Disney Legends program. What Disney can't do is make his accomplishments disappear. Cummings has already spent decades voicing characters inseparable from the company's history. Generations grew up with him. Disney itself continues bringing him to D23 to celebrate that history. At this point, Disney giving Jim Cummings a Disney Legends trophy wouldn't make him a legend. It would merely acknowledge what everybody else already knows. So, the reason for my mixed feelings on this is that I do think it's a bad look when you are promoting yourself. I agree with his sentiment. He's absolutely right. The guy has done more voice work than probably anybody in Disney's history. He is an extremely talented voice artist, but it's not a good look when you're self-promoting. Reposting is one thing. You're getting the message across, but there's another problem with this, and that is if they choose to give him Disney Legend status in the future, it's going to look like it was under pressure from him, and it will cause people to question whether the award is legitimate, and I think that works against him. What do you guys say?
I agree with you, but also there are too many Disney legends. It's becoming not rarefied air. What in particular has Anne Hathaway done for the Disney brand?
The chicken? The Princess Diaries are Disney movies, aren't they?
They are. But
so I'm guessing it's for that.
Yeah, maybe, I guess. But I just, as I'm saying, there are just too many Disney legends. It's becoming not rarefied as it should be. Now, on the subject of Jim Cummings and his, personal claim to be in, when Jeremy Irons blew out his voice singing for Scar in Lion King, they had Jim Cummings finish the song in Jeremy Irons' voice. When they needed to remaster Bedknobs and Broomsticks, and David Tomlinson was too old and his voice was no longer the same, Jim Cummings did David Tomlinson's voice. When they need somebody to do voice work to pull their giblets out of the fire, they go to him because they know it's going to work.
For that matter, on the earnings calls, I think he was the guy that was announcing people coming on the line for the longest time.
Sounds probably like a classic case of voice actor prejudice.
Yeah, I think there is some truth to that, because there is a school of thought that says that voice acting isn't really acting and it's just nonsense. But then you've got to come up against, well, okay, why are you giving Alan Tudyk the award then? Not to disparage Alan Tudyk's work, but come on, guys. When we're saying he's been doing this for 40, almost 50 years, that's a significant portion of the company's entire history. And his voice is going to be identified with all of these characters for generations going forward. It's not a minor thing. I do see some people in the chat asking, how long has he reposted about this before making this post? Not long, I don't think, because I think he only started reposting after the D23 inductions were done. So we're talking like the last week, 2 weeks, something like that.
Yeah, like you said, for him, I wish he would have done something privately before doing it publicly, just for the fact that, and this is really giving them the benefit of the doubt, but maybe he just, for some reason, he's always been there and he's flown under the radar because he's just so solid and they always can count on him. But he's also just so a part of the company that they simply overlooked him. Mm-hmm. And for him, like you were saying, to post this publicly, like you said, kind of goes against them in some ways, and then, like you said, forcing their hand. But I could see where he was slighted and reacted, and he's also been doing more online as just Jim Cummings, and maybe he is branching out in a way farther than Disney. So I don't know if it's part of it.
This is where my next points would come from, because I also see Zen Wookie asking, sometimes if you don't toot your own horn, who will? And my answer to that would be everybody else, because everybody knows that he is this major talent. That's why they were posting about it in the future. And that's why I think that was a good thing, and that his reposting was direct enough. Mm-hmm. My major concern is that if they do grant him the award in the future, it's going to look like they gave it to him because he created the public stir, and it will unfortunately cause the question, even in his own mind, I would bet, to be whether they only gave it to him because he made them. Now, he may not want to burn a bridge. He may not want to stop working. But imagine if he just said after the induction ceremony, you know what? I resign. He doesn't even have to say why. But I imagine at that point they would be looking at it and going, uh-oh, what do we do now? Mm-hmm. You end up with something kind of like the current Kermit situation, where you probably have, I doubt if there's one person that could take over all of the voices that he does. So there would probably have to be multiple people that would have to take on those roles, and I guarantee you, some of them aren't going to be doing the job that Jim Cummings does.
Well, who would have thought Tigger and Winnie the Pooh would be the same voice actor? And he does them so masterfully. Jim Cummings has done so many characters for them that there are scenes where he's talking, like all the characters within the scenes are him talking to himself.
Which itself is definitely not an easy thing to do. Hank
Azaria over on The Simpsons has done that too.
As Lou would say, a lot of times when you're filming things, the scenes are not in order. Mm-hmm. And when you're recording things, and also if you're recording out of order, and especially I would imagine if you're doing two different parts, those aren't going to be on the same track. Those are two separate recordings. Mm-hmm. And you've got to think about, what is the character's frame of mind? What is he feeling in this moment? What was it like in the last scene that I may have recorded 2 weeks ago? It gets incredibly complex. And to be able to pull that off, you got to have some serious chops.
So what you're saying is it's a lot more difficult than voicing a chicken.
Well, you've got to get into the mind of the chicken, you see. And if you have ever looked into the eyes of a chicken with intensity and seen the enormity of the stupidity that is there, it's you really have to empty yourself, you see. This is why I consume them so often. Let's see. There's one more story we can get to pretty quick, because this is related to the story that we're going to be talking about. This is more Marvel TV shows are reportedly in the works. Marvel Studios reportedly has several new live-action television shows in development, despite recent indications that the company intends to dramatically reduce its output for Disney+. According to Puck, Marvel is actively developing multiple live-action series for the streaming service. Although the specific projects remain unknown, announcements could arrive in the near future. The report follows a surprisingly quiet D23, where Marvel did not reveal any new live-action Disney Plus shows. The studio instead focused its attention on theatrical projects such as Avengers Doomsday and the upcoming X-Men reboot. Vision Quest, which has been described as the final chapter of the WandaVision trilogy, was the only new live-action Marvel series prominently featured during the event. It premieres on October 14th. The new report appears to contradict previous claims that Marvel is winding down its live-action television operation after Vision Quest. However, the two accounts may not be entirely incompatible. On August 14th, Collider reported that Marvel Studios will be cutting back on live-action Disney Plus shows. However, it noted the possibility of Marvel miniseries and specials, like this year's Punisher: One Last Kill, being released under the Marvel Presents and Marvel Spotlight banners. The report suggested that expensive Lucasfilm and Marvel shows were viewed internally as grand experiments designed to determine how effectively Disney Plus could compete with Netflix and HBO Max. Read, not very. Marvel could have several projects in development while remaining far more selective about which shows eventually receive approval. Development does not guarantee that a series will enter production. Disney will likely evaluate the expense and effectiveness of streaming exclusive superhero content in relation to broader market trends. Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige previously acknowledged that the company intends to produce considerably less television programming. Where we have great actors playing great characters, I think it would be fun to see them multiple places, Feige told Variety last year, but the output will be much less. The studio released 5 live-action Disney Plus shows in 2021 alone. That aggressive approach required audiences to follow hours of interconnected content to remain current with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It also contributed to complaints that the franchise had become oversaturated and increasingly difficult to follow. This year, both the second season of Daredevil Born Again and Wonder Man failed to generate significant audience interest. Daredevil Born Again Season 2 failed to crack Nielsen's top 10 streaming programs, while Wonder Man appeared only briefly. Those results lend considerable weight to the idea that Disney and Marvel will scale back their streaming output after Vision Quest and Daredevil Born Again Season 3. Marvel also recently canceled the second season of Wonder Man, despite previously renewing the show and securing the return of Yahya Abdul-Mateen II and Ben Kingsley. Showrunner Andrew Guest had written the premiere and outlined the remaining episodes before Disney reversed course. Neither Puck nor Marvel has identified the projects currently in development. However, the expanding mutant corner of the MCU could provide material for future Disney Plus shows. Several new X-Men characters are expected to appear in Avengers Doomsday before Marvel launches its theatrical reboot. Puck suggested that these characters could eventually bleed into the company's streaming strategy. Given the decades of material available from Marvel Comics, the possibilities are practically endless. Whether audiences remain enthusiastic about more superhero television is another matter entirely. Still, the latest reports suggest that Marvel has not abandoned live-action television. Fans should probably expect fewer shows, more cautious spending, and a development process in which many proposed projects never reach Disney+. So the surprising thing to me about this is that they're apparently more confident about Marvel properties than they are of Lucasfilm properties, let's say, for example. My sense of things is that they still think there is some life in the MCU, but I think they are greatly scaling back the development costs by reducing the number of series and likely consolidating talent as well, probably keeping them to only 1 or 2 different writers' rooms, I'm guessing. That will help them weed out who's got the talent and who doesn't. That could only be, I hope, to the benefit of what the studio is trying to do. Also kind of got the sense that at Lucasfilm, I think they're still nervous about where they're at. I don't think they know what to do. Filoni has recently been talking about trying to appeal to all of the Star Wars fans, meaning prequel, original trilogy, sequel, and EU fans and animated fans. I think they're gearing up to do animated movies on that side, or series. I think that they feel more confident about doing animated stuff than they do live-action stuff. It allows them to control costs, but I don't think that they're willing to talk about that yet. So that's my read of the situation. What do you guys think?
I can go in reverse order. I think that if they were to do extended universe or Legends content as animated movies, they could get away with that a lot more easily than doing it in live action and having to explain, we used the Force to change the flow of time, that kind of thing.
Yeah, but you still have to explain to the audience that this is supposedly separate and apart. And my argument against adapting the EU as animated has always been it's the same problem you're going to run into with Ahsoka. It's not what the audience wants. What the audience wants is a faithful live action adaptation. And unfortunately, we're in a place where they can't give us that.
Yeah, and I mean, I do love Star Wars and animation. Actually, I think it's a good medium for it, but because of just the physical side of things, physics in general. But to adapt EU would be quite challenging, and the recent example of that would probably be even not exactly EU, but the Ninth Jedi, which unfortunately has not done very well. Not very many people have seen it, although it is good. I enjoyed that, but you would have a built-in fan base if you set it up as a different time, a different place. It's possible, but it's just not going to get the numbers like you're saying that they need.
Let me ask you a different question then. I didn't expect this to veer into Star Wars talk, but I'm never going to be upset about that. I agree with you that Star Wars has generally done pretty well with animation. There are some things that I don't like. Maul Shadow Lord was obviously one of them. I liked. Oh, you're surprised by that.
I am surprised.
Did you not hear my rant? Oh my gosh, I hated that series so much.
Oh my goodness! Wow,
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
I thought it was awful, awful, awful. I went on an epic rant about this a couple of weeks ago. I like most of the Clone Wars. I tend to like Rebels. I was lukewarm on Bad Batch, but here's the thing. Generally speaking, Star Wars animation has had a very particular style. It's a very Filoni style. It is an interpreted vision of the Star Wars universe that is deliberately looks animated, and it's stylized. What if you did an animated movie that didn't look like that? That actually was replicating a live action look where you were now kind of what I'm thinking about is I'm going back now. This is going to be a terrible example because we're so far in the past here. But do you guys remember when they did animated Starship Troopers movies?
Yeah.
There was an animated Starship Troopers series for a while, and they did some movies. Yeah, it was all CGI stuff. Now, Clone Wars and all of that is CGI as well, but it is a stylized CGI. Roughnecks and those shows back in the day were trying to do something more realistic. The technology just wasn't there so that it could actually be realistic. Now, it could be if they wanted it to be. Now, if they were going in that direction, now you've got my support. Now, where they're going to run into trouble is people will accuse them of doing AI stuff. But if they explicitly came out and said, this is not AI, and they tried to animate something that really did have a real look, or as close to it as you could get, now you've got my attention. So
yeah, that's a great point. And do you remember I think it was the trailers for the Old Republic where they had that same style? I've been raving about those for years. That is the style. I'm like, whoever made those, give those people a movie. Have them make a movie in that. It'd be perfect.
And that's kind of the direction that I'm thinking, is that if you had something that was like that. Now, obviously, it's not real. It's not, you're not going to mistake these is that a human actor?
Right.
But it's sort of like what Blizzard used to do with their blur animations. It's like if you capture the universe, but you're not treating it as a stylized version, okay, let's go and see what you can do. So that's my take. The real reason I wanted to talk about this, though, was the Marvel stuff. Are you guys surprised that they're still apparently going to be investing in live action Marvel TV?
No, it's another. Disney is an omni-channel media company that they don't want to do it all. I though would not be averse if I were advising Disney. I would be fine with somebody from the Fox team coming in with a pitch and wanting to produce a Fox show again that was within the Marvel universe, or ABC TV. I might even license it out to other people just to generate some revenue, because Marvel's made their money back, but I don't think Star Wars has made its money back on that purchase.
Yep, I agree.
I think Disney Plus, the shows, is a safer place to do things. I just don't think it's getting quite the views or the public out in the public as much. And I think part of it feels like they're doing a shotgun effect and hoping something will stick. But the problem is, quantity over quality, I think, is where they're coming into a little bit of the that's where the problem lies for me. I've enjoyed most of them for the most part, but they are just lacking a little bit in the weight. And if you're used to movies, because what they did was they made all the movies basically be a giant show that ties together. If you're used to that format, that style of everything's got a lot more weight behind it, going to the small screen can be challenging to have that same feel.
So we're extending this discussion a little bit. We're getting into our main story time, so I want to keep it a little bit tight. But I'll mention that my dad called me the other day, and he said, "Have you watched Spider Noir?" Now, that's the one on Amazon.
Mhm.
And I was a little shocked that my dad was watching Spider Noir, and he said, "It's great. I still haven't seen it. I keep meaning to watch it, but I keep forgetting it's there, and so I don't get around to it." But it's like, I'm wondering if the success of Spider Noir is one of the reasons that they're still feeling like, okay, maybe there's a way to do this. The downside to the live action Marvel stuff is it's just so expensive, and your return on investment for Disney Plus is not there. And so I agree with you, Martin, that if you had somebody like Fox or another studio that was running it on their channel where they could get ad revenue, because it's like Disney, they keep trying to find ways to monetize their content, and none of it is doing well because they just don't have enough eyeballs on Disney Plus. It needs to go somewhere else where it can be seen and where they're actually going to cater to the audience.
So in business, the great lure of subscription models was a siren song. It was everything businesses wanted, because in an era when everybody's invested through their 401ks, where you have agents with major companies like BlackRock, and I'm not treating them as a villain. I know a lot of people do that. This is not that discussion. And then you have other agents on the company side who are making decisions, even though they don't really have stake in anything. In that sort of situation, you want to be able to normalize your earnings across quarters so everything is predictable, because the great sin on Wall Street is missing earnings. So if you know exactly what Wall Street is expecting in earnings, and you can deliver that every time the way GE did from the 80s to the early 2000s, then stock will increase, and that in turn increases executive pay because they're indexed that way. So getting people enrolled in a subscription service was everything they wanted, but it also meant that you didn't have an opportunity for giant hits for wins. Because you weren't licensing things out to other studios that would hit big, and then you can renegotiate for season 2. And you didn't leave things in the movie theaters long enough because you had to pull them into your little sandbox, because that's where everybody is subscribed anyways.
Yep. Okay, guys, I think it's time to get into our major topic. We do have another super chat before we do that. That's from Chef Eddie for 5, saying Lorn's favorite Star Trek was Voyager. The only reason I'm reading this is because you actually super chatted. That show about Amelia Earhart really got to him. He will never forget that classic. That is a true statement. I will never forget that.
The 37?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
My wife is also a Star Trek fan, and she had a dearth of quality female role models growing up, and so she actually did latch on to Voyager. She really liked Janeway. It's one of her favorite series, and I accept that about her. But
Well said.
Even she hates the Amelia Earhart episode.
There are many, many reasons to hate that episode. That was when I swore off Voyager and I never went back, and it was a shame because I did very much look forward to that series when it was coming out, and it was such a disappointment. Anyway, back to main topic. I I wasn't real sure how to talk about this because I have to give full disclosure to the audience. X-Men was a comic I didn't read. I was never a guy who read X-Men, so my association with X-Men is pretty much purely through the cinematic universe. So I can't talk with any depth when it comes to X-Men, other than that I do enjoy the movies. I liked many of them, not all of them, but I thought what would be interesting would be to bring up the people who have been announced as the cast for the new movie and just kind of take a look at them. Now, I'm going to do a little inside baseball here. I was trying to choose images for these people because understand we haven't seen anything of their work. They've just been cast. They're not in costume or anything. And there were people who have already gone out and done artwork of the characters so that they're made up to look like they would in kind of a comic book sort of style. I chose not to go with those pictures. I think there's only one or two where I made an exception for that, and you'll see why when we get there. Generally speaking, I then tried to choose pictures of the original casts from their roles in the movie so that you could see them as they were portrayed. And I just thought we'd talk about, do we think this is good casting? Do we think it's not good casting? What do we think they're going to look like? How do we think they're going to use them? And then discuss the other actors who had portrayed the roles and what we thought of them. I just thought it would be a fun discussion. It can go in any direction you guys want. The first one that we're going to talk about is the first one that we've actually seen in action. That is Sadie Sink as Jean Grey. And I know people have got mixed feelings about her as Jean Grey and the way that she was handled in Brand New Day. And guys, if you're going to be upset about that spoiler, the movie's been out for weeks now. I don't know how you would have avoided it. So I'm not going to bother to cloak that in spoiler speak. I do have mixed feelings about the way they handled her in Brand New Day. I think that having her be the villain was the weakest part of the episode. And here's a funny thing. I'll put it this way. I knew before going into the movie that she was playing Jean Grey. I knew that Jean Grey was in the movie. And yet, while I was watching the movie, I forgot that. And I was so intrigued by whatever was going on. Because it's like, I was sitting there scratching my head going, what are they doing here? What is the villain? I had completely forgotten somehow while sitting in the seat. And then I think 5 minutes before the reveal, I suddenly remembered and I went, I know what's going on.
Was there something in particular about Sadie that was distracting you?
Well, there is a reason why I chose this picture, but it's not the one that you're thinking. It's actually so we can compare it to Famke Janssen because she has a similar pose in one of the pictures. So I thought, well, okay, if we're comparing and contrasting, let's go. No, I just thought that maybe I would have been more intrigued by a different villain than Jean Grey. And I think that it does a disservice for Jean to start off doing things that are, at the very least, in the morally gray area and potentially villainous. I think you need to see her as the sweet girl first. That said, I'm not against casting Sadie Sink. I think that she's fine for the role, and I think that she can look the part. So what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with your take on it. The biggest problem I had, like you, was the fact that you're using her as a villain first, and then you're going to set her up as a hero. I think the only fix they possibly could have done to that is if they were tapping into the Phoenix side of things, which is more of her darker alter ego, and maybe they can still pull that around, but how they showed it in the movie definitely didn't seem that way. So that's the problem I had.
I see Chef Eddie in the chat. Actually, Chef, that's not what I'm into, but I will admit it's a very nice picture. I don't know. They have screwed up Phoenix at least twice. Is it twice or three times now?
I think it's just twice, I think. But I'm
I
not sure.
I think so.
I think that's right. Okay. So I would be very wary of them going anywhere near that story before giving her an arc before that. And that's part of the reason why I didn't like them starting her off as the pseudo villain of this recent thing. And there's essentially one of the things that I have been a little bit conflicted about for Brand New Day is that I really liked the movie. I think almost everybody else really liked the movie just based on the box office that it's done, but it essentially has the same problem that WandaVision has. It's just more clever about how it does it. It doesn't explicitly come out and say at the end, uh, they'll never know what you gave. Right. You see what I'm saying? And so,
So it's not just morally bankrupt; it's evil.
yeah, and so, the more I have thought about Brand New Day after the fact, that is something that bothers me. I think it gets away with it because it was so entertaining right up to her reveal. So make of that what you will.
Yeah, she was almost just the catalyst for other things to happen in the movie that we were almost more interested in. With the picking up where everybody forgot about him, and Tom Holland really is the one who carries that whole movie. I mean, his acting, his portrayal of Spider-Man is just so well done, and it's a very well executed film. They couldn't miss. But as far as Sadie Sink, I mean, it's smart on them to cast her as this because she is a big up and coming actress. She's already got a following from Stranger Things, and then coming over to this, it's kind of a natural progression for her, and to get the younger generation involved as well, because there's a lot of the youth who grew up with Stranger Things, and now they're going into this. So it's a smart play. I don't love how they introduced her, but I do think it's smart on how they're bringing her in, and the rest of the cast, which are mostly unknowns, makes sense for me.
A lot is going to depend, I think, on how they handle her in the X-Men movie. It's a lot's going to depend on that, in my opinion. Next up, we've got Famke Janssen, and this is why I picked the other pick, was because when I was looking for Jean Grey's, it's like, well, okay, if we're comparing and contrasting, here we go. So
Late Night with Lorn.
I don't know. This is where I get into trouble because I don't have the comics familiarity. I don't know how the Dark Phoenix story was handled in the comics because I never read it. So I can't say whether she was a faithful interpretation of the character. I liked her performance. I thought maybe they didn't give her enough. They went, okay, so when they do the Dark Phoenix story in the third X-Men movie, what was it called? What was the subtitle of that one? Do you remember?
Oh, man, I don't remember.
So we got X-Men, X2, X United,
Yeah,
and then
Last Stand. The Last Stand.
okay, Last Stand. Yep, that's the one. That one already screwed up that trilogy because of the timeline. Because I think they said that when Charles and Eric go to take her from her family, I think it's 1986, and that creates problems for her age and for other things. And it felt like they just rushed this because they wanted to show Dark Phoenix, and it was not a great movie. So I feel
they jammed too much into that movie. The way Dark Phoenix is not like her alter ego that is there because Charles Xavier was suppressing her powers. It's an entity that or a cosmic force that uses her body for its ends, and it becomes corrupted. It's the storyline was just bad for 3.
yeah, in my opinion, I think that she was fine. There's nothing wrong with her performance, but she wasn't given enough to do. She was the girl that Logan and Cyclops were fighting over, and I think that was kind of a disservice to her and her character, in my opinion. So I feel like they should have given her more to do, and I hope they give Sadie Sink more to do.
Yeah, in a way, it already feels like they've given at least Sadie Sink more room to act in different ways in this through different mediums with the introduction.
Maniacal ways.
Yeah, maniacal. Yeah, definitely maniacal ways. I try to show a lighter side and how Spider-Man was able to bring her back from the edge.
Now, this is actually going to bring us to, I never watched this version, so you guys will have to comment. Sophie Turner. Did either of you see the movie that she was in?
I saw it one time and I barely paid it. It was boring.
Yeah, from my understanding, I mean, again, I didn't watch it, but I heard that people were so wary of them doing another Dark Phoenix turn after they botched it the first time, and then they
Mhm.
botched it a second time, and people were so upset, which was why I knew not to go see it, because it's like this is, from my understanding, the one X-Men story besides Days of Future Past that you cannot screw up, and they
Yeah,
tried it
well,
twice.
the
Go
X-Men have
ahead.
to go to space and deal with intergalactic empires and Cyclops' family, and it's a whole big thing, and they didn't do it.
Any further thoughts, Dustin?
No, I didn't actually see this one. I was like you. I kind of just I heard it was not very good, so I never got around to it. And since it is such a big storyline, for them always basically to cram it into one movie is doesn't do it the service it needs. It almost plays better as a show if you were going to adapt something to a show, or maybe a trilogy if you're going to do it like that.
Yeah, it's to me, and of course, again, not having read the comics, I had sort of imprinted on Famke Janssen as Dark Phoenix, and to me, Sophie Turner doesn't have the look. She doesn't look like the way that I envision her, but that may just be because I don't really know how she looked in the comics. I do see that we've got a super chat from Douglas Nutt for $2 saying, "How is a deranged telepath small potatoes?" Um, I don't. Did I say that she was small potatoes? I don't. I don't remember any of
Don't
us
remember.
saying that.
I don't remember saying it. I don't remember either of you saying it.
No,
Um,
I.
maybe it is in
Maybe
regards
reacting to
to
somebody in the chat.
it could be, or maybe the role she played in it that she wasn't as big of a role for the movie or something like that. I'm not sure.
Um, I'm not sure what you're referring to there, Douglas. It's if we're talking about in Brand New Day, which is my assumption. I don't think she's small potatoes. I just thought that I would have been more intrigued if, even though I guess I would say when I had forgotten that she was going to be playing the character in Brand New Day, when I was sitting in the theater and seeing this weird thing going on, and I just wasn't putting it together. I was leaning forward in my seat and I was intrigued. And it's like, who is this? How are they doing this? What's going on? And then when I remembered, there was a moment of disappointment where I went, "Oh, that's right."
I see.
You could argue that that's because I essentially spoiled myself because I knew beforehand going in, but in a way, I think the movie would have been elevated. It's like now in a movie you can't really get away with doing this without getting flack from the community. But if it was a brand new villain, somebody that we'd never seen before, that might have been exciting. I'm sure there are other characters that have got a similar power set that you could use in that role as well. When I remembered that it was Jean, I went kind of, oh, okay. And then we did the Jean story, which I was not particularly invested in.
All
So,
right, so Donovan's got a comment there about the small potatoes thing.
Yeah,
no, the Thunderbolts
yeah,
called Jean small potatoes because, oh,
yeah. They're
right, 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 right,
clarifying.
right, right.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that's sort of the you've got two different Avengers teams technically right now, and they're both trying to big league each other. And they're trying to make out that we're handling the big boys, and you're just this crummy little neighborhood Spider-Man. You know, it's her being condescending. I don't think that means that she's small potatoes. It just means that she's sort of saying this isn't worth our time. And part of that is because I'm certain that Disney insisted that Yelena have a role in there. Part of it is also because if you do have this wider universe that has got superhero teams, you've got to ask why aren't they on everything? And the answer is because this is a Spider-Man movie. So you've got to explain it somehow. And in this case, it's that they're saying, you handle it.
Well, and
Also,
you
at
know
this
what?
point,
In universe, they don't know how powerful she is.
right. That was the other thing that I was going to say is that this is their first encounter with her. So they haven't examined her. They don't know what her power set is. You can bet they do now, or at least an inkling of it.
oh yeah. Wow, yeah. I wish she wasn't in that movie. Honestly, Yelena or whatever the Thunderbolts tie-in was kind of off-putting to me. It wasn't necessary for the film, in my opinion.
Agree.
Who was the best Jean Grey, though, that you guys like the most?
Oh, for me, it's Famke Janssen, hands
Yeah.
down.
Yeah, I think
Now,
so.
I guess we should say, what do we think about the new gal, Sadie Sink? Do we think that she will live up to that role or exceed it? Or go under the bar? Where do we think she's going to stand?
I think time will tell. I think it depends on how they write her character. I mean, unfortunately, it depends on the writers and how much they give her to work with. I think if she has a say in it and actually has some creative ability to guide or direct, I think she'll do a great job acting. She's already got a following, and I think for what they gave her in the movie on its own, without it even tying into Jean Grey, I thought was well done. So I think she could do good.
So next up, we've got Kit Connor as Cyclops. And this is one that I debated a little bit because I did see some fan artwork that was developed of him in the Cyclops uniform, and he looked great. He actually looked really great. And they were going off of the original X-Men uniform, the yellow with the blue X. And I don't know if they used AI to generate it or how they generated it, but I genuinely got excited, which surprised me. Because looking at the guy, he doesn't scream Cyclops to me, but you put that visor on him and get him in the uniform, and obviously he's been working out to prepare for the role, and it was like, okay, I buy this, and I'm anxious to see if they actually bring the costume to life the way that it looked in that image.
I thought this was going to be Colossus.
Yeah, he looks jacked.
Yeah,
Well, not just that,
actually,
but it's that awful Eastern Bloc haircut.
I see that now. Oh, you're right. Dang.
Douglas Nutt is saying he's in the uniform in the Doomsday trailer. The Cyclops I had seen in the Doomsday trailer, I thought was James Marsden.
Yeah, James Marsden is what I thought it was.
Yeah,
Which he looks great in that.
He does, but I
We should
don't
have
think
had
that we've
20 years ago.
I don't think that
ago.
we've seen this guy yet. So, do we have any? Do we know him from anything else? I've never seen him in anything. I don't think.
I haven't.
Sorry, I was doing a little bit of research on him earlier. He doesn't have much credit to his name. He was in a role in the Netflix series Heartstopper. That he's known for, and he's also going to be the upcoming adaptation of Elden Ring is also what he's going to be in. So there's not much known about him at this point.
All right. Well, all I can tell you is that if he looks anything like he does in that artwork that was generated, it's like, okay, I buy you as Cyclops now, and I didn't before, so that's a positive sign. Next up, we got James Marsden, who, honestly, I was surprised. There's been 4 different actors who played Cyclops. Did you realize that?
Yeah.
Well, 3 other ones, I guess, besides the new guy. This is another case where, again, not knowing the comics, I always felt like James Marsden was sort of not handled well in the X-Men movies because, how can I say this without swearing? Nope, that ain't gonna work either. Let's just say that I'm just gonna say it. He was Wolverine's bitch. In the movies, he was always kind of the sad sack boyfriend who was jealous, and it's like he was never cool. And that's not the fault of James Marsden. He is a good actor. He loved the character. He wanted to play the character again. He was not treated well in the writing. And I know he's excited to come back for Doomsday. I'm excited that he's going to get the chance. It sounds like he's excited about the role that he's going to play. I hope it's not just showing up on the screen for 5 minutes to get killed, but we'll find out. What do you guys think?
I think I'm hoping. Have you guys seen X-Men 97? Have you guys seen any of the new X-Men 97 stuff?
Not season 2 yet.
Okay. You saw season 1 at least, though, Martin.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So in that show, they made it way more epic for me. Cyclops was awesome in the show. They went super hard on his character, and it was like, holy cow, this is pretty incredible. And from what
you got to show why he's the leader.
Yeah, exactly. And they did that in that show. I'm hoping that they're gonna piggyback off that, because even one of the scenes that they show in the trailer is very similar to one of the scenes that's in that X-Men 97, which I think is an iconic adaptation even from the comics. So I'm hoping they're giving him his due. It seems like when they're bringing these characters back, they're really trying to bring back the soul of the characters as well as with the cool iconic costumes. I mean, that's half of it. So I'm excited.
A couple of things. Marsden as an actor made an interesting career of being America's ex-boyfriend.
Yeah, that's true.
Where he was the guy who didn't get picked, even though he probably should have in a lot of his movies. And so, but that dynamic hadn't developed yet by the time when we got to X-Men, because he had been in, like, was it Disturbed? No, it wasn't Disturbed. He was in one of those mid 90s movies about like high school angst where the teachers are all being taken over by alien kind of things. But this was the one where everybody's in detention. Yeah, that kind of stuff. And so he when he aged up, he became Cyclops here. And yeah, you're right. Cyclops, they didn't do well for him. The third movie, they entirely cut him out because he was doing Superman Returns. And they couldn't make that schedule work.
Yep.
I always wanted more out of this because Cyclops was one of my favorite X-Men.
Yeah, I agree. I think that he was done dirty, and I really hope that they make up for it. So next
and part
up,
of that was just Wolverine is the big character, and Hugh Jackman ended up being a breakout star.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they had to showcase him, and I understand that. But he just wasn't believable to me. You know, it's like I didn't believe that he and Wolverine should have got into it a little bit more. And not in a way where he came off as whiny, which is what I felt he was. But we got Ty Sheridan, who played him in the First Class era movies. And I thought he did a fine job. There was nothing wrong with his Cyclops. But at the same time, at this point, you know, the first one's always your first love. And even though I'm just complaining about James Marsden as Cyclops, James Marsden was Cyclops. This felt like Timu Miles Teller to me. So,
well, with the glasses on, he looks like Miles Teller.
Right. So, I don't know. What do you guys think?
No, I agree completely. He's kind of, I hate to say it, but kind of forgettable in the role. They didn't give it a lot.
Oh, wait till you see the next guy.
Well, and nothing in this shot screams X-Men at all, other than he's got ruby red glasses.
Yeah.
Yep.
You don't even the classic visor.
All right. So, not much of an impression from Ty Sheridan. But do you guys remember this guy?
Oh, I forgot about that.
This is Tim Pocock, and I believe this was from Wolverine Origins. So,
yeah,
there was that one.
There was so much wrong with Wolverine Origins. This is the least of things.
Yes, but you know what? I got to admit that Wolverine Origins is kind of a guilty pleasure of mine. There's a lot that's wrong with it, but there's a lot that I like. So I don't tend to broadcast that, but now the whole internet knows. So
hey, I agree with you. So I'm right there with you.
Maybe I'll give it a rewatch.
It's fun. It's a
Don't
fun.
get me wrong.
I do remember it being fun, and I remember Wolverine sparking a trail of gasoline with his claws and all that.
Yes, one of the best walking away from a explosion scenes ever. It got great motorcycle stuff. I love the old folks that he's with for a little while. I even like I hate what they did with Deadpool, although I'm not a Deadpool fan, but I liked the idea that they sparked the 3 Mile Island incident. I liked some stuff in there, so guilty pleasure.
Yeah, that fight scene was good. The guy who was the body of Deadpool has gone on to do a bunch of like independent martial arts movies and stuff like that. I have to look up his name. Well, you make your point, Dustin.
Oh, I was just gonna say that Wolverine Origins, that movie. It's like a old classic 80s like Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. That's what it feels like to me. It's like a classic action movie. And I think that's why it's so much fun. You can forgive a lot of it because you're just having a good time seeing explosions and fights, and it's still got enough heart there.
Well, I think you could say maybe it bears some similarities. You're right about 80s movies, but I would say the 80s comic book movies that were, take some of the Superman movies. The first two were pretty good. Then you get Superman 3 and Superman 4, which are objectively terrible movies and canon movies, which is part of why they're terrible. You could see what they were aspiring to, and they just didn't have what they needed at the time to reach those lofty heights. It was only in the late 90s, early 2000s that we started getting the comic book movies that we should have gotten. And Origins feels like a throwback to some of those that were like, it's a little more like what we were doing before, but not quite where we're currently at, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, oh yeah.
We almost had an R-rated horror Doctor Strange in the 90s called it ended up being called Dr. Mordred, with the guy who he was on so many episodes of Star Trek, is like Wei Yun, and he was the Andorian. No. You know who I'm talking about, right? He
yes,
was also
I do. I've got his face right in front of me.
Reanimator. He was in that.
Oh, why can't I think of his name?
How many of us are typing it right now?
I think we all are.
Jeffrey Combs.
Jeffrey Combs. Oh, and the chat's letting us know too. Thank you, chat.
Yep, they're on it.
By the way, the one the chat didn't come up with was when I was struggling with the body double for Wade Wilson. That was Scott Adkins, and he's gone on to make the modern version of a lot of those old 80s martial arts movies. In fact, he did the sequel to Hard Target.
I think our next actor is going to be the most controversial. Christopher Abbott for Professor X. I'm just going to leave that there, and then I'm going to ask you guys to comment.
I have not seen anything he's in.
Yeah, me neither. I'm sorry. I've not seen anything he's in, so I'm not. He's got too much hair.
Yeah.
So there's a reason that I'm doing this one this way. What do you guys think? Because we haven't seen any of his work, we're having to go purely visually, and that's how we're making this determination.
Okay. I think, if I remember correctly, that Charles Xavier is supposed to be like Dutch or something, of Dutch extraction, since he's from upstate New York. Although Xavier as a last name is Portuguese, Basque, I think, as well.
I think sorry, go ahead.
But I think that when you're converting from one visual medium into another, I think you need to do your best to stay within the visual medium. Now, at the same time, I was not overly upset with Kingpin being a black man in Daredevil, because it was awesome.
All right. So there's a reason I did this way, and this is the rare case where I actually did go with an artist rendering. Look at this now.
Ooh. Now I see it. Yeah.
It looks like he's sitting for his portrait as a senator.
This actually greatly changed my opinion. When I saw this, now there's no guarantee he's going to look like this in the movie. Mm-hmm. But when I saw this, it's like, oh, I see it now. So this actually made me a little bit more optimistic. Now, it's going to be interesting to see, because none of us, I think, have seen him in anything. What are his acting chops like? Can he pull off this character? He's going to need to have a certain level of gravitas. But if he looks like that, all right, show me what you got.
Yeah, he's got one of the toughest, I think, stepping into this role because of two legendary actors that have played this role before him. I think he has probably one of the most challenging jobs here. Although the
Mhm.
one thing I have heard is that I'm not sure about this, but possibly he will actually have an American accent, not a British accent for this version prior to the other two versions of Xavier, which might work out better. I don't know.
I do think he should have an American accent. He's a New Yorker,
Right.
but could they just not write the check to McAvoy? McAvoy's great and age appropriate.
I think he has made some comments that he doesn't think that he'll ever play the role again. So it's possible that he didn't want to do it anymore, or they had some kind of falling out. Don't know.
I
But
I would have retained McAvoy and Fassbender if at all possible.
well,
Again, if at all possible.
I can respect their decision though to recast
Mhm.
just for the fact that these are all unknowns and hopefully like they've done with Star Wars in the past, I always link it to that, but having unknowns can help you see these characters as these characters, not as
and,
anything before.
and I think a main reason for it too is that they're supposedly coming from a
Right.
different reality. So they should look different. They should be different. And as you just basically said, there's also the fact that they are unknowns, and that means they're going to be a lot cheaper. And if they're
Mhm.
going to be making these movies in the future, there's some benefit to that. Um,
And I have been saying for years now that Marvel and Lucasfilm need to discover the mid-budget movie again. They
yes,
can't swing for the fence every single time.
absolutely. Completely agree with that. And that's some of what you're going to need to do to get the studios back on track. But that brings us back to Patrick Stewart.
I mean,
Legend.
exceptional.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with this casting.
I'm so glad they're bringing him back. That's the thing that's so fun about the multiverse and why they could still potentially bring Fassbender back and McAvoy in the future.
How cool must it be to be Patrick Stewart?
I
Think
just
of
want to know
all
what
the
I did to
incredible
disappoint
roles.
him with that look on his face.
Well, you may not know you disappointed him, but he knows you did because he can read your mind.
That's true.
I think
He
they
knows when you've been sleeping. He knows when you're awake.
should. He just needs a beard. They need to make him a Disney legend at this point.
All right, so that brings us to James McAvoy, and I'm going to argue I really like the way he played the character. He actually, in my opinion, did just as good a job as Patrick Stewart, which surprised me. Yeah, I don't think that James is a slouch when it comes to
He's a great
acting
actor.
either.
Yeah.
And he made some choices. He did some things that I would not have expected, knowing that he is supposed to be the younger version of the Patrick Stewart character. This is not an alternate
Mhm.
Professor X. It's the same one. They're just at different ages, especially in Days of Future Past. I thought that his performance in Days of Future Past was brilliant. And like you, I'm going to miss him. I thought that he was an excellent Professor X.
They gave him the most depth. I think that's also what made his role so significant is they gave him so much depth, so much character arc with him. I mean, for goodness sake, he has hair and then doesn't have hair. So,
Well,
that's-
and the compromises he made to be able to walk around again and things like that. It was a good arc.
So I'm going to ask the controversial character or the question: which one?
McAvoy.
Really?
Yeah, I think that. Or wait, are we talking about who's your favorite or who you would go with now if you had your pick?
Favorite?
Stewart, but
Okay.
by a narrow margin.
yeah, I have to say Stewart as well.
Okay. I don't know that I can make that call. It's too close to call for me. I love both of their performances, and regardless of how the new guy looks, he's got a really difficult task to stand up to those marks. I don't envy him at all because the audience is going to be watching him like a hawk. I hope he pulls it off. I mean, imagine how lucky we're going to be if he gives a great performance. But man, that's stepping up to the plate and taking a swing.
Now, I will say that McAvoy, though, he had a lot more to chew on for Professor X, because in the first set of movies that Fox did, Professor X is basically a static character. He's the lodestone that the X-Men use to guide them. James McAvoy's still discovering, his character still discovering who he is and how to navigate a world where people know what mutants are.
I'm pleasantly surprised that so many out of the chat are giving McAvoy his flowers, because I sort of thought I was the only one that had this opinion, so that makes me very happy.
It's a narrow margin, like Martin said. It's like they're neck and neck.
Yep. Next up is Samara Weaving as Emma Frost.
I'm not going to complain about that.
See, this is where I suffer again, because I don't really know the character well enough. I know surface level information about her. I don't know that I've seen Samara Weaving in anything, so I can't really judge her acting either. I guess I can say she looks the part, but whether she'll be appropriate for it or not, I don't know. On the other hand, do you guys have anything more to say about her before we move on?
It depends on how they want to treat her. Sometimes she has a hero turn. Sometimes she's pure femme fatale. It really depends.
Well, so the only things that she was in two horror comedy movies called Ready or Not and Ready or Not 2. I almost think they're going to go more villainous just from that. But I don't know.
Next up, January Jones. And this is where I'm going to say I thought she was terrible. I like January Jones as an actress. I did not like her playing Emma Frost in this movie.
Yeah, I didn't think she was great.
The vibe I got from her in that movie was that she was bored and she thought that she was better than the material.
I actually kind of thought Emma Frost was supposed to be bored and thought she was too good to be there. I did think the character was being portrayed that way.
Well, okay, fair enough. Then maybe is that how she would be portrayed in the comics?
I'm not. That's hard to say, because with comics sometimes it's what you bring into it. But yeah, kind of an ice queen at times.
Yeah, yeah. It depends on the arc for her and where she's at, almost in the arc. Like you said, there's kind of a hero side, anti-hero, realistically, looking out for herself. So,
okay, so the chat is also saying that's an accurate portrayal. So maybe I have been unfair to her, but when she was playing the part in the movie, she took me out of it. So
she played it too well, is what you're saying.
Possibly the case. And again,
Oscar level.
I'm really the X-Men neophyte here, so if I'm saying wrong stuff, guys, I'm sorry. All I can do is give you my opinion from the cinematic universe. So
you're doing great.
This one, I think I'm interested to see how Samara Weaving plays her, though, because, like I said, January's performance did not set me on fire, so I'm willing to give her the benefit of the doubt and see where we go. Next up is... I hope I pronounced this right. Indy Navarrete, is that right?
I've never heard her pronounce it.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I butchered that, that's again something I'll have to apologize for. This is the gal who was in Obsession this year. She's going to be playing Rogue. I'm actually interested. I haven't seen Obsession. My son did. He loved it. I know that people have been raving about her performance. She's not who I would traditionally imagine playing Rogue, but this is, again, a character that I saw some mock-ups that people had done with her looking like Rogue. Again, I kind of had to war with myself as, do I want to show that or not? And the reason I didn't is because sometimes when you're doing concept art and when people are putting things together, it's too good. And then when they come out and they show you what they actually designed for the costumes, you're disappointed. And that's not really fair because, they've got their own interpretation and what you're looking at to compare it to is pure fantasy. I thought she looked great in this artist's depiction of what she could look like as Rogue. So start there. Do you think she looks the part? Do you think she can play the part? Is she appropriate for the part? What do you got?
I do sort of wonder if she can do a Mississippi accent.
Yeah, that was the accent is the biggest thing.
And that's kind of a shame to reduce a character down to that, but she's Rogue has often just been written as a pretty flat character, kind of one note. The whole thing about she can't touch people, and they really focus on that and her isolation, and that's about it. Not a whole lot of development in the adaptations outside the comic books. What do you think, Dustin?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, she looks the part. The actress looks the part. I hope they give her a little bit more development in this. And just by looking at her right now, I don't know, without seeing her actually in costume, everything like that, I kind of almost hope they don't go the Southern Belle accent, although that is against the character. But she doesn't seem like necessarily she'd fit that as well. So it depends on the adaptation of her. Maybe they'll give her something a little bit more to do, a little bit more interesting.
Well, and
So yeah,
a Southern accent today is not the same, or a Mississippi accent today is not exactly the same as it was 30, 40 years ago when the character gets introduced.
yeah. I mean, to the point, I'm from X-Men '97. I keep going back to this because it's just recent on my mind, and it's a good show. Her Southern accent in the show almost takes you out. She almost does it so much that you're just like, this is almost cheesy.
They lay it on thick. It's like a trowel.
Yeah. So I hope, and the character herself is almost like a Superman-esque with one flaw. You know, it's like she's got one kryptonite. She can't touch people without, but she's always been one of the strongest characters power level wise in the X-Men. And I feel like that's hard to write in there as well.
So that brings us to Anna Paquin. And I loved her portrayal of Rogue. Fell in love with her in the first X-Men movie. Thought she did a fantastic job. I do not know if she's comic book accurate. I've heard that there were issues with her age and obviously her relationship with Logan, which, as I understand it, didn't exist in the comics. I only recently learned from my son. I didn't know that there was an alternate cut of Days of Future Past. Did you guys know that?
Yeah, I think I ran into it across it one time, but I don't remember. I don't remember which cut it was that I saw last.
There was a Rogue cut where she's put into the movie. She becomes a major plot driving force, and I had no idea there was an alternate cut. I haven't seen it, but I want to because I like Days of Future Past. I think it's a great movie. I have a feeling it would be better to get Rogue in there because she's one of the originals, and it was a shame she wasn't in it originally.
Yeah, I think her chemistry with Wolverine in that movie, they played it very well, and it made sense with her one flaw and his regenerative powers. It made sense, the fatherly type figure. I think those two acting together kind of made that whole movie.
Well, and if you think about it in terms of economic storytelling, you need to bring both those characters into the fold. And you don't want to have to repeat that story beat, so you do it at the same time, which gives them a connection for the audience.
I think if they're doing Rogue again, what they really need, which they have been missing other than in the X-Men '97, is the relationship between her and Gambit. That is actually one of the most interesting story points with her is with Gambit.
And that's going to create something interesting too, because there's a real age difference between Channing Tatum and her.
Actually, I was going to ask about that just as a kind of a side question. What do you guys think about Channing Tatum as Gambit?
I like it. I've always liked it. Even when they said he was going to get when they replaced what's his name that played him in Origins,
Taylor Kitsch.
Yeah.
And I didn't think Taylor Kitsch was bad. I thought the material was bad, but I actually think Channing Tatum was good in that. From what I understand, he had family in Louisiana. He visited quite a bit, so the accent isn't a complete put on.
Yeah, I actually thought he did really great with the accent, but to me, he's too big. I saw him, and it's like, I don't think Gambit's that built.
Yeah. Actually, that's the biggest problem I have with him too, is his physique. I was like, he needs to be slimmed
Gambit
down
should be lean.
Lean, yeah, that was the thing. But I liked what they did with his character. That aside, I'm glad that they gave him the role because that had been speculated on for like a decade. They were trying to get him to do that role, and maybe he was leaner back then. So when he finally got his due, it was funny enough to me. And Gambit's always been one of my favorite characters in the X-Men. So I was just glad that we got a decent, more comic book accurate version of Gambit.
So next up, we got Maya Boyd as Storm.
Yeah, she's got a nice look. I don't know who she is though.
Hard to judge without her hair being white. I really, this is another one of those things where it's like, gosh, I wish I could put up. I'm kicking myself now thinking maybe I should have just put up the artwork because I feel like it makes it fairer to the actor, but I'm worried that it's unfair to the film. It's hard sometimes to know. It's like, which do I go with? The only reason I did the one with Professor X was that it was such a change in how I viewed the casting that it's like, well, I have to put this one here. So
yeah, it's hard to not see Rogue without the white hair. She looks the part to me, so I think she'll do a good job. She's a relatively unknown. She's only done I think one or two things before this.
Some people are saying she's a stage actress.
Yeah, that's more of what I was seeing.
Well, and here we have somebody who's practically not an actress at all.
Oh, boo!
Come on. Okay. Back when she took this role.
Yes, that's. I would not argue that she wasn't an actress. She had already done plenty of things. She's a fine actress. She took a lot of flack for how she played Storm.
And I also think in the intervening years, she developed very well as an actress. She's not one of the luminaries of the craft, but she's serviceable.
But boy, is she! I never felt that. I never was as aghast at her performance as I think most others were. I put that down. Yes, trying to do the accent was probably a mistake. Trying to come up with an accent to do the character was not a great idea. But the line that I remember everybody making a big deal with is, do you know what happens when a toad gets hit by lightning? The same thing that happens to everybody else. That's not a her problem. That's a writing problem. And I felt like she took the brunt of that, and it wasn't fair.
She could have played it off as a joke, though, and it might have come across better.
Yeah, the timing of how you say that and the delivery of the lightning, I think, plays a lot into that.
Okay.
But that's an anti-humor joke.
Yeah.
And also, bear in mind, that also comes down to the direction and the editing and choosing which take to use. It's like there may have been better takes. I still put that squarely on the writer and the director. I don't think that's a her problem.
Yeah. I thought she was fine. I mean, whenever I saw her, she didn't blow me away, but she didn't irritate me in the role at all. I thought she did a pretty good job.
And then let's see, the last one that we have for Storm is Alexandra Shipp, who was in Armageddon. No, it was Apocalypse. Apocalypse. I only saw this movie once. This, to me, when they were doing the various decade X-Men movies, this was the one that disappointed me. I did not like Apocalypse, and I felt bad about that because I wanted to like it. I had enjoyed the First Class, and I enjoyed Days of Future Past. This one didn't work for me. I should go back and rewatch it again just to see if my opinion has changed. I don't really remember her performance. So...
I forgot she was in it. She's one of the horsemen, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yes.
Which explains the lobotomy haircut.
Yeah.
And I know that's in the comic books, but it was ugly in the comic books too.
At least they did something different. I mean, that's the only thing I could say. They kind of tried to have her stand out a little bit with her hair standing up.
So I think that pretty much says it all. None of us are picking her as the definitive Storm. So that one almost goes to Halle Berry by default, depending on how the new gal does.
Yeah, I think that's right.
That's fair.
And then,
they didn't give her a lot to work with, so...
Finally, and Storm actually deserves a great performance, so I hope the new gal does great. The last one, we don't have an original actor for. This will be his first appearance. And we have Adam Driver as Mr. Sinister.
Okay. I hadn't seen that one. I'm interested
Yeah.
to see that.
This is one that Feige's been doing a misdirect on, because they kept asking him, are you going to invite him to do a Marvel part? And he was going out on the circuit saying, well, there's this ritual that we do where every time we do a Marvel movie, we call up Adam Driver and see if he wants to be in, and then he always politely turns us down. It's become a ritual. And, of course, he was masking the fact that they were going to be announcing this. And so I actually think this is great casting. I think that Adam Driver is a great actor.
Mhm.
I have no beef with Adam in the part, and I think he'll be a great Mr. Sinister.
Was it Marv who had said he thought it should be Cavill?
As Mr. Sinister?
Ooh.
Yeah, I think we discussed this. Marv thought he would be great for Cyclops, but also as Mr. Sinister.
He may have said that. If he did, I didn't remember it.
He could definitely do that part too.
Yeah, because Sinister is a British guy.
Well, I see Cape Canaveral saying he'd have to bulk up, I think. Remember what they did with Kylo Ren?
Yeah.
Do you want another scene like that? Ask yourself that question.
Ben Swolo.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. But I did like his announcement whenever they brought him on. It felt a lot like Matt the radar technician, with him announcing who he was, and even the delivery he gives. I'm playing Magneto. Oh, that's wrong. I love his take on it. It's hilarious.
I don't like Adam Driver, all of the roles that he plays, but I like Adam Driver. I think he's got a good head on his shoulders, and I think he's a really smart guy. He knows when to distance himself from something that's not working for him and when to play into it. I think he's a really clever guy, and I wish him all the success in this role. So,
and he's
I also thought it was great when he was the only actor at the Academy Awards, or was it Golden Globes, who was laughing his head off at the
Ricky Gervais.
Mhm.
Yep. Yeah,
That's
he thought
telling.
it was hilarious.
That is telling. Yeah, he's such a likable guy. The only problem with him playing villains for me is because he's such a likable guy. Sometimes it can be hard to see him as a villain, and when he does that, I know he feels like he's acting, but when he actually has more of a role, but Mr. Sinister can be quite snarky, which I think will play into his personality quite well.
So I do see some people asking in the chat, who is Mr. Sinister? So for the uninitiated, if you guys wouldn't mind explaining who he is and what he does, the chat would probably benefit from that.
So he starts out as a Victorian doctor who figures out that mutants exist. And then he starts doing experiments to figure out what's going on. And the experiments get increasingly bizarre, and he turns himself into actually various things. Mr. Sinister is just one manifestation of all the things he's turned himself into. And he starts to manipulate the bloodlines of different mutant families, like, setting people up, breeding for this, breeding for that. And Scott, Cyclops, he is actually part of that experimentation.
Yeah, and his son as well.
Oh, that's
crazy.
Right. Yeah.
He's like, it's like X-Men Origins, or Wolverine Origins. Sorry,
X-Men Origin Wolverine.
Yeah, X-Men Origin Wolf. Thank you. Over time, it's basically if you have a similar thing to that, but somebody that's using time to their advantage, and that's kind of what Mr. Sinister comes out to be, which is an interesting take.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting to see how they frame this movie. Are they going to start off in the Victorian era to show him discovering the mutant gene and trying to figure out how to manipulate it? That might be an interesting way to start the movie. But in any case, that is the last of the cast there. We do have a super chat to get to before we get out of here for the night. That from Solstice Studios for 20 saying, Sadie has the ability, but it depends on the script. And I agree with that. I think that's entirely true. I guess maybe one thing that we should ask of the chat is, are you guys excited about X-Men or not? Because Marvel's in this weird place right now where I think that they've fallen quite far from where they were at Endgame. We have Doomsday on the horizon. I think, generally speaking, the audience is not real excited. Could be proven wrong. Are you excited about X-Men now, starting with a fresh cast? Are you indifferent? Do you not care? Or are you willing to give them a chance depending on how Doomsday does? What do you think? In the meantime, guys, what do you guys have coming up over the next week, if anything? Where can people find you? And then we'll do our outro.
Well, for me, Lost Guys is still sort of on hiatus. We'll let the audience know when episodes start coming out again, but those will be on That Mark Plays the channel as a member exclusive for a couple of months, and then they get uploaded on T3PO 8 weeks or so afterwards. And then you can find me on Marv's show on Thursdays. I was going to say Toonie Talk, but it hasn't been that for months. The M4 Empire.
And Dustin.
Nice. Yeah, I'm looking for another great show with you on Tuesday. Other than that, on Stand Target, we have a video dropping next week of an interview of another channel. A lot of fun talking drums, talking Star Wars, mostly Star Wars over there. And then we got another Wednesday night show, and we have another members only exclusive interview next week that I'm really looking forward to.
Sounds fantastic. Guys, we hope that you have a great weekend. Everybody stay safe out there. Have a great time. We look forward to seeing you again next Tuesday. Until then, take care, and we'll see you soon.
The bell rings every morning. It's off to school and work. Waiting for some fun while my boss acts like a jerk. Pro show afternoons. Midnight Sedge can't come too soon. Afternoon and Sedge can't come too soon. But at night I'm filled with dread. I know just what I'll do instead. Come on and follow me. It's time you see for Lorn and Apollo. Time to laugh and learn. Come feel the burn of what the fandom was. What random fun doesn't escape? Isn't it great? Late night with Lorn and Apollo.